Hi everyone, this is Paul Casey. Welcome to the Kenpo Minute. We'll be discussing Kenpo, principles, concepts, teachings, sometimes topical subjects, and we hope that you will like this page, subscribe to this page, and share. We look forward to seeing you at the Kenpo Minute. Thank you. Hi everyone, this is Paul Casey and the Kenpo Minute. So we discuss things with Kenpo related to subjects, topics, etc. Sometimes it's current, sometimes it's not. And I have special guests that come on. And today I'm really fortunate to have one of my favorite people, Master Todd Durgan, and his system of PKI. He's going to talk a little bit about that just briefly. But we're going to jump in on a subject that interests me, and it is the stages of combat. But before we go into that, let's introduce Todd. Hey, Todd, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself, Paul? Thanks for having me on.
It's good to see you, looking as good as ever, you know. And quickly, before we go any further, tell everybody about PKI real quick and how to find you.
PKI, KempoGuy.com. Phasic Combatives is a system that I put together, assembled as a combination of the base of the system is American Kenpo, Ed Parker's American Kenpo. I use all the self-defense scenarios are Ed Parker scenarios, base scenarios, and then I add attributes from different systems, including sticks, knives, groundwork, China, small circle jiu-jitsu, all kinds of different stuff. And then, yeah, so have some a bunch of myriad of various things from other systems and other things that I've put together myself.
Yeah, your origins are Ed Parker Kenpo, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
my history is I don't know, roughly the last 40 years American Kenpo.
Okay, great. And then you've expanded on that and delved into some of Mr. Parker's teaching through his books, Infinite Insights, and then your own journey on that as well, correct?
Correct, absolutely.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase. I mentioned earlier that we're talking about the stages of combat, and I'm going to define it so the listener can hear this. And this is the Kenpo Minute. So we're just going to hit it really hard and fast, and hopefully we can stir some interest on your part, the viewer, so that you can think about it. My thinking is simple. There is street fighting, that mindset. Then there is sport karate, and there is Hollywood karate. Now I'm using the word karate because it's pretty much a catch-all phrase. And I'm going to define it. The street is like, the intent is that you're fighting for your life. You're protecting yourself, your loved ones, and the mindset should be, I may not win, but I ain't going to lose. And that's really where you're at. And it's really, it's brutal. The other side of the coin, a lot of people come into a school and they'll look at sport karate and they think, ooh, I look good because I wear a karate uniform or a gi in some schools. I have a belt and I get to wear trophies. Okay. And in other activities, sometimes they call those participation awards, which is what we've gravitated lately. Finally, the last stage is what I call Hollywood or entertainment karate. And people like to focus on how they do karate, and then they work choreographed sequence of motions and they practice it. And you see that exemplified in the movies or in television, like Kung Fu, the TV series, or Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, or the most current interest is the John Wick series of action martial artists. And we've seen that over the years. So Todd, what are we trying to take away from these stages? What's the one should we focus on? And what is the problem with Kenpo right now with those?
So let me clarify real quick first. Are you putting sport and commercial together in the same space?
Pretty much. I'm gonna let you define that. I'm gonna ask you to help me define that.
Well, so I mean, they kind of are in the same space, but commercial karate has a different intent and kind of direction than sport karate does, or can. They can have two different directions and intentions, right? Where sport karate is point fighting and or continuous fighting kind of stuff, where you're going to tournaments and doing competitions, whereas commercial karate is not really commercial karate doesn't even have to do sport karate. They don't have to go to tournaments. They just go in, they pay their dues, they get the belt, they get the gi, they get all the cool shiny stuff you're talking about, minus the trophies. So but they can be two different worlds.
What's the problem with that facet of karate versus street karate?
With commercial karate?
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
That's a good one. So commercial martial arts in general, the problem is that it's the dollar that drives it. It's not the mindset of a warrior or the attitude of survival, right?
Is that a disservice we're doing to the student then?
It is, to an extent. Now, mind you that some people grow up in that and move on to other aspects of the arts, right? They grow up in the commercial karate. Lots of people. You see it all over the internet. They trained in John Doe's Taekwondo, or not to pick on Taekwondo, or John Doe's martial arts Do, and then they kind of grow out of that, or they come into a new season in their journey, and they find something else that's not necessarily more appealing, but for them in their travel at that moment is more realistic and going to be more beneficial to them with regard to street survival. Not everybody is in it for that. Let's be real. Not everybody is in it to defend themselves, their family, or their country. A lot of people, especially in the commercial space, are in it to have a community. They're in it to be a part of something different. They're in it for some exercise. They're in it to be because they always dreamt of doing karate.
Well, yeah, but you sound like somebody wants to do softball,
right? Or yoga, or hot yoga. Or
all the guys get together in their mid 30s and 40s and 50s and with their pot bellies saying, "Oh, well, let's have a couple beers after playing some." And I'll relive my glory days when I was in high school and I was an all-star.
Right. Well, hey, we got people in Kenpo that talk about the glory days. Come on.
Oh yeah, and that's the
people
sad
talk
thing.
about the glory days. That's the greatest thing about the glory days. They never die.
Well, here's something I learned a long time ago, and I went from one school and then went with Trejo after I learned him. I just wanted to stop blocking with my face.
Right.
Okay. And because when you get into competition, you start to see there are people that have superior abilities and talent because they're refined and they're focused. Yep. So I realized that. And then later on, I even said to Trejo, I said, listen, I don't want to do point fighting because I think I will learn bad habits. And I was starting to fall prey to that. So we got it on in Pasadena. We put on the gloves, put a mouthpiece in, wore some maybe headgear, some, leg protection, because we were kicking and hitting hard. Yeah. Because I really wanted to feel what it was like to get hit and be able to recover from that.
Yep.
Somebody did strike me and I didn't collapse with a glass jaw. So the intent facet for me was, if I'm going to pull the trigger on you, I'm going right to bat. Now, I've had a discussion with others about the morality of, are you talking about you're going to rip someone's eye out or, break his kneecaps or something? Well, if it's between me and him, I'll worry about that later. I mean, he's really, there's a lot of bad people out there, and it's very scary what you see in the news. Most recently is the upswing, or at least the media coverage of tragedies that have happened from people with guns, and maybe knives. And the point is, more people die every year from a car accident than they do from gunshots. Okay. Right. So the key factor is that quit watching the other side of the coin, where we watch the movie guys and they're doing all their takedowns and they're punching and kicking and shooting, and that's all choreographed, folks. So the intent thing is that you need to go in here and focus and really actually, and I would guess in your case as an instructor with your students, to really pull out of that student, what is your goal?
Yep.
Because when you're outside the school, you don't get to wear that belt, friend, and that's not going to do anything other than be a trophy for the guy that you're against.
Yeah, coming in the door, I ask my students, why are you here? Why are you here? And then eventually they understand that I don't care why they're here. I have an intent to teach them to be able to defend themselves effectively, right?
I think actually, folks, Todd is one of the most uh, skilled practitioners, and as a martial arts instructor, there's no question he's well thought of. He's also a member of the Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame, chosen by his peers. I think the why factor is he wants to make sure you come in and you'll be able to come back, not end up as a statistic. And that's where we're at with this.
Right. So we introduce, we say, yeah, why are you here? Okay, great. That's nice. We're going to start you off with that idea. We're going to put you through that, and then we're going to introduce you to some different ideas as we move along and bring you into the fold, so to speak, to have a different mindset about combat and reality and what can happen to you if you're not properly prepared.
What is the number one thing we need to prepare if we're a martial artist, and that you see is at a weak point in Kenpo today?
Well, besides the basics, the mental attitude.
Okay, so the basics, I said it the other day, I was horrible what I said, but it's true. It was beaten into my head from Frank Trejo and Ed Parker, the importance of the basic. I mean, come on, stances, posture, balance. I call it controlled relaxation when you're in a fighting stance. Be able to respond, not fight linear, use angle attacks, look and anticipate, broken rhythm, things like that. Those were ideas and concepts that Frank taught me, and to really mean business when you punch or you kick.
Yep. Bob, weave, slip.
Yeah.
All of the maneuver, all of those things that are a staple in survival and or combat. But yeah, absolutely the basics. If you can't stand up, you can't walk and you can't run. So
my problem was that the first lesson I got from Frank on the mat, and I've said it to others, when I got on the mat, he said, you're going to respect this school, you're going to respect this mat, and you're going to respect this patch. And he says, if you can't do that, you've got to leave. In other words, he immediately set my mindset that I was there to do business, not to play, because he was never a player. Well, maybe he was, but in the martial arts, he wasn't.
Different play.
Different play. He was the women loved him. He had such charm and a personality. But and I never left with, and I always thought about that. And that's why I stayed with him for 40 years.
Yeah.
Because he instilled in me a set of principles, concepts. And recently it's been brought up. What's the difference between the ego, between somebody that is arrogant or are they confident? And my attitude is that the arrogant guy says, oh, I can do that. I can do that. The confident guy says humbly, I have done that and I will do that. And I don't have to say it again.
Or just quietly goes about doing that.
Well, if we get in a discussion, he's going to show you. He's going to make it business count. And so I always believe that when you get on the mat, it's all business. If you try to hurt me, I will jack you up. I may still get hurt, but I profess that I carry a belt that was presented to me by Ed Parker and Frank Trejo. And that was the biggest accomplishment I ever wanted to have in my martial arts journey, and that was in 1981. And I got to tell you, I am, to this day, I'm humbled by that. And so when I talk to people like yourself, and folks, if you have questions, you need to reach out to somebody like Todd Durgan or the others that come on this show, because they really know what they're talking about, and they always have your best interests. So let's just finish up this idea about the stages of combat. There's street, where there ain't no rules, folks. You go on the ground, you're going to be on the ground. You may get hurt on the ground. You may tear something up. You may break something. You may get your butt whipped, and the guy wins because you didn't know what you're doing down there. In sport karate, there is an official there. There are rules, and they'll stop something. Maybe not. You might still get hurt from a cheap shot. When you watch stuff on TV or the movies or whatever, that's just entertainment. You're better off just watching a cartoon.
So I want to clarify something though, because you keep saying stages of combat, and you're going to catch some feedback on that.
Good. That's what we're here for.
But you're specifically, when you say that, it sounds like you're saying stages of combat as in ranges of combat or something specifically oriented toward combat, as opposed to types of practice of martial arts or different
scenarios, possible sessions. You train. If I come in to train in Todd Durgan's school, I know that I'm going to be, first of all, I've checked him out. I know of his abilities, his credentials, his lineage, and reputation. So I walk in there and I feel comfortable. And I go, okay, I'm going to train with this man. He's going to look at me, do an evaluation, and assess whether I'm at what level I'm going to be. He's
Right.
going to say, these are our goals are. What do you want to accomplish? And obviously people come in and say, I want to be Bruce Lee or John Wick, or I just want to be able to do something so that I feel good about myself. Okay?
Nobody ever says I want to be Sambo.
Yeah, they don't say that stuff, man. And you know that.
He was awesome.
Or they're going to say, I just don't want somebody to stick a knife in me. Or how do I avoid that? And
right.
If you go into Mr. Parker's, Infinite Insights, which you and I have discussed many, many, many times, and you've explored and expanded on that. And by the way, if you get a chance, read Todd's books. He addresses the universal pattern, the analytical study of motion, the web of knowledge. I mean, he really goes in deep on those things. And if you really want the analytical side of Mr. Parker's system, you need to look at that. Because to be a true protege of Ed Parker, as Frank said to me, we are all proteges if we follow in the footsteps of Ed Parker. But when you get to the door, that's when your path begins. And you need to walk that path that hasn't been walked yet. And that is personal. That is your own voice. That is your own expression. Final thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, no, I agree. Don't get caught up with the, with regard to following or being a protege of Ed Parker and studying that stuff. Don't get caught up in one of the things that he said or two of the things that he said, but take the entirety of what he said, right? And move forward with that. I see people getting caught up with that, and I guess that's their path, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and
It's
we
limiting.
read about them. There's a very good story that one of my friends told me about a very, very proficient young martial artist training at the school. And sadly, and he was very good. And he came upon a knife altercation, a situation. And he was young. He's only in his 20s. And guess what? He died. He died. Why? I guess he wasn't as proficient mentally that he should have been, of being aware that that knife just had no conscience. I think it's aside from an evil mind, that is one of the most dangerous weapons you could possibly deal with, because it doesn't take proficiency. It cuts in, out, all around. I'm telling you right now, and I know that you've addressed this sometimes. So thank you for listening. This is Todd Durgan, Master PKI. Reach out to him. You have questions, talk to us, and we'll probably bring up these subjects in the future discussions. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks.
So thank you for watching the Kenpo Minute. We hope you enjoy it, and please come back and visit us again. Thank you very much.